It was late September. My older brother had just gotten his car, and with a new car comes new freedoms. Even now, when we drive together, he blasts his music as we go down the highway. Nothing says I'm free like letting the subwoofers go through some pain while playing your favorite songs. This one time, however, instead of putting on a song that we both known, or playing a hype song that would have us both jumping in our seats, he looked at me, told me, "I think you'll like this one," and played this song.
Lady, 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 lady. No, you see the confidence, believe me, I am wavy.
The perfect loop of this song's sample, the agony and the ecstasy by Smokey Robinson, and the artist's smooth lyricism, along with the reference to listening to Kendrick Lamar, told me that this rapper, whoever she was someone I needed to listen more to. The song was Two Worlds Apart, and the artist was Little Simz. Two Worlds Apart is the third track on Simz' critically acclaimed album, Sometimes I Might Be Introvert. When I got home, I looked her up on Spotify and clicked through the album until I heard that iconic intro. I put both headphones in, laid down on my bed, and listened to that song twice, maybe 3 times more, before deciding to let the album speak to me some more, and I let the fourth track play. I Love You, I Hate You. I used to be a crier. I would cry all the time, honestly, for some pretty dumb shit. Part of that was just me being young, but I think it was tied in a lot with family drama and being relatively young in my friend groups, my social circles, and not being sure how to balance all that.
I don't wanna fucking hear it!
But for a while, I was mad at myself for being such a crybaby all the time. Immature as hell, I know. I don't even mean for this to be a sob story. Trust me, it serves a purpose. But the point is, I used to cry all the time. And I stopped. But listening to that fourth track, lying on my bed, really hearing the lyrics, the composition, the production, the pain, for the first time in years, a small tear fell down my face. Ever since then, that song has had a special place in my heart, and Little Simz has been my #1 favorite artist. But most of y'all probably don't even know who she is, so let's take a step back.
Naija women got the melanin dripping. L-O-N-D-O-N city girl living in the back looking like fire chili pepper. Yoruba girl tougher than imperial leather.
Little Simz is a British musical artist and actress who released her first album, A Curious Tale of Trials and Persons, in 2015. Described as both abstract and deeply personal, Trials and Persons demonstrates Simz' lyrical mastery and flow while giving off, quote, energy at a colossal dangerous rate, as described by Pitchfork. Managing the braggadocious nature of hype rappers while also speaking to the heart and nurturing the soul, Simz' music, at least to me, is marked by a distinct, unique duality. Between Trials and Persons and Sometimes I Might Be Introvert, Simz released 2 more albums, Stillness in Wonderland and Gray Area, as well as Drop 6, an EP with, as you could guess, 6 songs. Gray Area was her first album to chart on music charts, peaking at #1 for UK R&B and #11 for UK Indie. Although the rankings don't make the music, it's important to see that from a visibility standpoint, Little Simz was just getting started. Sometimes I Might Be Introvert released on September 3rd, 2021, and is just over an hour with 19 tracks. According to the artist, the album is all about Little Simz, or rather, Simbiatsu Simbi Ajikawa, the woman behind the stage personality. In what I would describe as a Sasha Fierceism, Sometimes I Might Be Introvert, which I'll be calling Simbi from now, pulls apart its artist and forces her to analyze herself as both Little Simz and as Simbiatsu. This very expressive, wide-reaching album is described by Simz as an analysis of her, quote, being this introverted person that has all these crazy thoughts and ideas and theories in her head, and not always feeling like she's able to express it if it's not through her art. Even now, after the release of No Thank You, Simz' most recent album, which released on my birthday week,
We don't care. Let me tell you, we don't care.
Simbi is without a doubt my favorite album of hers, and probably my favorite album of all time. Simz' commentary of this album establishes a key concept that permeates not only the song in question, but also her album as a whole. How music and media in general can not only help the creator process and overcome hardships in their life, but also how listening and digesting said media can help the consumer do the same. In this way, music serves several roles as the story, the moral, and the medium for the two to exist, all in one. I Love You, I Hate You is about Simz' struggle with and freedom from the pain incurred as a result of her absentee father. Although this is just one aspect of her life that she sheds light on in Simbi, its orchestral at times composition makes it seem like the musical climax of the album. This is why I was surprised to find it as only the fourth track in the list. But perhaps it's that, in order for Simz to progress internally, she must come to terms with the obstacles in front of her externally. But we haven't started the analysis yet, so we'll revisit that. If you remember my earlier story, you may remember that I Love You, I Hate You was the first thing that had made me cry in a few years. This is because despite the perfect production and emotion behind the music and the lyrics, its message and overall meaning hit home to me so well. Like Simz, my own father left our family when I was young. While the reasons for it are probably pretty different, Simz is very explicit and to the point when it comes to coming to terms with the pain left in her father's absence and how she needs to resolve it in order to basically move on with her life. In my own life, I think that a lot of my pain has resulted from my inability to be active and resolve the issues that cause me pain. So hearing Simz' words spoke to me like a motivation to mirror her actions. Without going too much into this subject matter, mostly because it's not the point of the video, I'm going to mention psychology and fatherlessness. This is more relevant to my understanding and consumption of I Love You, I Hate You, more than my hypothesis on how Simz' issues with fatherlessness might have affected her life, mostly because I don't have all the context behind the phenomenon to diagnose anyone. It's not really the point of the video. Generally, fatherlessness, especially for boys, can cause the following and more. A duality between expectations and reality of fathers and father figures, an impact on a young boy's sense of masculinity, negative emotional connection, and possibly the worst, an increased potential to repeat cycles of fatherlessness and neglect in their lives, meaning the cycle will repeat. Though some of these traits don't apply to her directly, Simz chooses to address the trauma of fatherlessness head on as a means to achieve freedom. This idea stuck with me because, who doesn't love to be free from things that once held them back? It's a universal desire that I think everyone wants and chooses to chase in their own ways. Now the table has been set to properly analyze the song. Keep in mind the following concepts. Music as a storytelling medium and an outlet for resolving personal issues for both the creator and the consumer. Duality in Little Simz' lyricism, especially with the context of Simbi being a reckoning with the artist's two halves. And the context of I Love You, I Hate You as a direct address to Simz' absentee father, but also an address to the concepts that fatherlessness can lead to. I would recommend listening to the song before this next part, and I'd also keep the lyrics on a separate tab to reference every now and again. Be sure to read the lyrics as you play the song, but also to take note of how the music and the composition makes you feel. Because of YouTube policy, I probably won't be able to play as much of the song as I want to, but at least by listening to it yourself, you'll be able to connect with as many of my references as possible. Go ahead, pause the video, I promise it'll be worth it. Okay, let's begin.
Moving on from there, I wanted to ask you about some of the topics of the album itself. Given how personal this record is, were there any songs that you'd like to go into, or, sort of like themes that you'd like to go into that at the point, prior to completing the record were maybe particularly hard to write or write about, maybe given, how much you'd kind of be revealing in the process of completing this album?
Yeah, well, I guess one of the main ones is definitely I Love You, I Hate You.
Yeah.
Just simply because of the subject matter and me having to confront things and be so open and vulnerable with my audience. And I remember being super like, I don't want this song to go on my album. Like, I'd write it and it could be a hard drive classic, but that's fine. Like, I don't know if I want the world to know like that, you know. But I'm super glad I done it, and the reception after, with people hitting me up saying, "Oh, I'm not an artist, but you've literally just articulated how I've been feeling for most of my life." I think those moments and those messages and that kind of reception makes it worth it. I love you, I hate you, for sure.
The first 15 seconds of the song features a complex, layered introduction, which seems to be cut abruptly. From a narrative point of view, this might reflect Simz's inability to conclude this song, or rather, this chapter in her life. And the musical motif permeates throughout the song, suggesting that, even though she finds peace by the end of the track, perhaps she can never truly come to a conclusion regarding her relationship to her father. The first words heard are followed by. This loops through most of the song, although sometimes only one half is said. I'll be tracking how often each one is said. Maybe it will reveal something about Simz's overall stance. Is it more love or more hate? Simz's first few lines outline how badly she needs to do what she's been attempting to do in the song, her reckoning with her father. This song, in my mind, always seems like a climactic battle between Simz and her opponent? Maybe her father, but maybe it's the vacuum that her father's absence has left in her life, and it's not directly targeted at him. These first few bars show her desperation, as well as how much she needs to confront her issues. The last half of the first verse sets up several dualities: inspiring others versus triggering them, pressure motivating some and leading to others' demise, and the expectations of others versus the reality of her own personal life. The verse ends with Simz acknowledging how difficult it's been to repress her internal trauma. Notice how all of these lines end with a "I hate you" soundbite. It feels like this represents how Simz, and many others, can spiral into anger and hateful rage towards parents that have done us wrong. And it furthers the pain and trauma associated with the void of absent parents. The chorus follows up from the last line of the first verse. Maybe because you're in my DNA, that's why I love you. I hate you. Simz seems to be saying that, despite his absence from her life and the negative feelings that come from that, he's still family to her, and so there's love underneath the whole relationship. This chorus is a little different from the first time we hear it. Simz says, "Sometimes I hate you," suggesting that the anger caused by fatherlessness comes in waves, something that I can personally attest to. This is followed by "Always I love you," which supports my previous claim that Simz truly loves her family, even though she doesn't really know. Despite the void created in his departure, Simz shows her maturity by acknowledging the positive contributions that he has made in her life. But for right now, I hate you. The duality is actually challenged, as Simz suggests that love and hate for a person can exist at the same time. Although they're two ends of a spectrum, perhaps there's a middle ground. With verse 2, I really want to emphasize how impactful I find the use of the "I love you" and "I hate you" phrases. The first line, "You made a promise to God to be there for your kids," is followed by "I love you." To me, this suggests that Simz is appreciative to and loves her father for the initial promise he'd made. Obviously that promise was broken, and as Simz is placed in a position where she's living the life of pain that he did, contrary to the second promise, she laments about the hate that accompanies. This is just the first couple of lines where this is used, and I think it goes a long way to reference the duality motif and what it means. where it kind of feels like a swinging pendulum, going back and forth with no sign of stopping. In this verse, Simz also strikes a powerful balance between dropping bars in the moment while progressing the story arc she's writing. She acknowledges her own insecurities with addressing her father while forcing herself to move forward. There are some hard-hitting bars in this verse. I think it was here where the curtain is peeled back. The first seems to be the introduction, the surface level acknowledgement, but the second verse is where we start getting real, where shit starts to hit the fan.
Too much unsaid, now the silence giving me headaches.
This obviously shows the pain of repression and how Simz is being hurt because she's having to hold in her emotions.
Never thought my parents would give me my first heartbreak.
Is followed by I hate you. This obviously shows that she hates her father for the pain that he's caused. But then she says,
Anxiety giving me irregular heart rate.
which is followed by I love you. Maybe the reason that she's so pressed by this whole situation is because she loves her dad.
Should have been the person there to hold me on my dark days. It's easier to stargaze. I wish than be faced with this reality. Is you a sperm donor or a dad to me?
This whole ending is so emotional and impactful. I think this is the part where the emotions started coming for me when I first listened to the song. Again, the chorus picks up from where the second verse leaves, with Simz saying, and still, I love you. I hate you. With this chorus, a choir sings, mirroring Simz' difficulty with coming to terms with her family. Although Simz is very direct with not wanting to hate her father and doing this not for him, but for herself, it seems like the pendulum is clearly swinging towards one side. Maybe the battle was never between Simz and her father, but instead between love and hate. The final verse is what I see as the true climax of the song and the whole story of the album. After some musings and wavering thoughts in the first part of the verse, Simz comes to a realization that her father, despite all the speculation that she could have envisioned in her mind, is really and truly only a human. And this acknowledgement allows her to pen her final thoughts. The drums and the background vocals are stripped away, leaving only her bars and the same loop from the beginning of the song, which I described as sort of an unfinished work. But now, Simz resolves herself to give it an end.
Sometimes I'm unbalanced and I think, raw, why am I losing my steps? Lately I'm paranoid, I feel my life is a mess. I'm just using my voice, hope it will have an effect. He was just once a boy, often I seem to forget. Looking at Polaroids, a picture secretly kept. You know what was destroyed, but you don't know what was left. Trying to phase out the noise of all you hear in your head. Everything is a choice and anything can be said. Is you missing the point? Are you just hearing me vent? Or is you in understanding, knowing my words will connect? I keep you in my prayers, cause life is short as we know. Every mistake you make should contribute to your growth. What you choose to avoid will probably come in your dreams. I'm not forgiven for you, man, I'm forgiven for me. And sometimes
There's a lot to be analyzed from this final section. Simz' first words, sometimes I'm unbalanced and I think, raw, why am I losing my steps? Parallels the composition, which emphasizes the impact of her words. As the extra instruments are taken away, the track itself feels kinda unbalanced and over-vocalized. Lately I'm paranoid, I feel my life is a mess, highlights the main sentiment of the first verse, which, if you recall, featured Little Simz being very honest and open with how suppressing her feelings has worked against her. Simz then takes another step to humanize her father, saying that he was just once a boy, often I seem to forget, looking at Polaroids of pictures secretly kept. In the last part of this verse, Simz speaks directly to her father. You know what was destroyed, but you don't know what was left, trying to phase out the noise of who you hear in your head. What was most interesting to me about this line was that the similarities between Simz and her father are yet again expressed, with internalizing pain being a common shared experience. The duality again is challenged. Before wishing well to her father, Simz questions whether or not he would have followed her through this journey. Maybe he's closed his heart towards hearing her out. One can only guess. Simz then moves beyond her fatherlessness by wishing him well, hoping that he's grown from the mistakes he's made, and hoping that he faces his issues head-on, lest they appear in his dreams. Finally, she states that, as if you need more reminding, at the end of the day, she did this for herself, freeing herself from years of emotional and mental trauma. Even though she's freed herself, though, Simz can't help but admit that sometimes I hate you. The strings flourish in a triumphant end, as if to resound with Simz's conclusion. Ultimately, she moves past her father's detrimental choice. Despite him abandoning his duties as a father, she is able to, yet again, take an incredibly mature stance, reminding herself of her father's humanity and innate fallibility. Although the hate might still creep up from time to time, she's chosen to forgive her father and move beyond the pain. Duality is ever present in this verse, as Simz sometimes equates her own struggles with avoidance to something that her father might also be experiencing. Just like how Simbi is an exploration of two sides of one woman, I Love You, I Hate You is an exploration of two sides of one conflict. And it shows that even though both sides have been impacted negatively, while one side has caused the pain, the other side, that was directly affected, is choosing to forgive and move beyond it. Kind of a nice story. Now feels like a great time to highlight the fact that Simz is not doing this to win back her father or to welcome him back into her life. As far as I know, her father hasn't made any such effort, and Simz herself went public with general apprehension to releasing this song because she was worried that she was giving her dad the stage. This is very much still a song about her and an album about her, so although she's choosing to heal and overcome her past pain, it's important that it's being done from her point of view and not as a reconciliatory act. The song ends again with the I love you, I hate you motif. This time though, the added lyrics say that sometimes it's love and sometimes it's hate. And while Simz suggests that she'll always love her father, the song ends with I hate you. I mean, it perfectly bookends the song, but maybe it's telling of some underlying feelings. I don't know. Alright, now let's turn to the love-hate counter. By the end of the song, I counted love roughly 33 times, and I spotted hate 40 times. Despite the maturity that Simz displays and the growth that she undergoes in this song, maybe the undercurrent of hate slightly overpowering love is telling of her inner mindset. That said, I hate you was only repeated in the beginning, over and over, and by the end it was pretty even. So maybe there are a few takes to have regarding this whole love-hate duality. There is a fine line between the two after all, so what do you think? I'd love to hear and discuss different interpretations in the comments. I Love You, I Hate You matters more to me than most songs I've heard in my life because of its immense personal importance. It kind of found me at the perfect time.
Nice.
While I can't say that I've approached my own relationships in as mature of a way as Simz does in this 4-minute song, it's definitely very inspirational and kinda outlines how I would like to address my own issues and pain. Listening to the lyrics highlights the tendency of children to dehumanize their parents. Though not always in a bad way, the outcome more often than not leads to either disappointment on the bad side or resentment on the worse side. I Love You, I Hate You is a love letter, although also kinda a hate letter low-key, from Simz to her father, and penning this story allows her to move on to the rest of the album, which, by the way, is a near-perfect album that I'd recommend everyone listen to, if you're still interested. This song shows the immense healing power of music as a catalyst for growth, self-love, and personal development for both sides of the interaction, the artist and the listener. Thanks for going on this journey with me through the brilliance behind this song. If you enjoyed this style of video, please let me know, and if you never want to see this again, be sure to mention that as well. I love receiving criticism and look forward to seeing your comments. If this is something that you're really into, consider giving this video a like and sharing it with someone you think might also like this song. Can't say that a subscription would be the best idea off the first video, but if I keep making content that you enjoy, you can consider that too. This was really fun to do, and I'll likely keep doing it regardless of its popularity, so keep your eyes out for more content in the future. Final words, listen to the album. I promise it'll be worth it. That's it, I'm done. Thanks for watching.